we had thousands of these. What does this imply? Because of this huge change, mothers develop a distinct perspective and should be allowed to speak for themselves. Mothers have specific views, opinions and needs that are not necessarily the same as all women. They don't have the same priorities as before, and that translates in their everyday life, among other things, in the way they wish to organize their time. Time. And that time, as I told you, is a very, very important issue to mothers, and we wanted to gather their opinion about it. We asked them about here is another quote about time. We mothers would like the possibility to raise our own children and the flexibility to manage hours of our employment or to take a career break according to the ages of our children. Please facilitate our re-entry into the paid labor force when the children become old enough to go to regular school. So we started by asking them a question about their preferences. Our question was referring namely to the preference study conducted by Professor Hakim, and we asked them the following question. Surveys have asked women their preferences concerning paid work. About 20% choose to center their lives on a career, about 60% would like to combine paid work with family care duties, and about 20% would prefer to center their lives on full-time unpaid family care duties. What would be your preference? I remind you that instead of talking to any woman, we were talking to mothers. 11% of our respondents preferred full-time employment no matter what. 63% preferred combination of part-time employment and family care duties, and 26% preferred full-time care of their family. Now we isolated the central group. The one interesting thing is that when you add the 11 and 63% of people, you have 74% of mothers who at some time in their life would like to work. And here, 89% of mothers who, at some time in their life, would like to take care of their family. Then we isolated the central group called, following the description of Professor Hakim, the adaptive group of mothers. And we asked them what were their preferences depending on the age of their children. With an infant under 1 year of age, 80% of mothers expressed the preference to take care full-time of their infants, while 20% wished to be employed part-time. This is a preference, it's not a reality, it's what they would like to do. With a child 1 to 3 years, 50% of the mothers would like to take care full-time of their child, while 50% would like to take care of them part-time, would like to go to work part-time. With a child 4 years and older, the majority of mothers would prefer part-time employment until the child reaches the age of 18. So it's still a majority of women. During adolescence, still 70% of mothers would prefer part-time employment and 30% full-time employment. Somewhere else in the survey, we asked their opinion about the possibility of leaving adolescents alone after school. And 84% of all mothers agreed that adolescents must not be left alone after school. So it's something to refer with this preference chart. So after the preference, depending on the age of children, we asked them their preferences based on the number of children. As the number of children increases, a mother preference for full-time employment declines, and the attractiveness of part-time rises. It's not always the case for part-time. You'll see that for the third child, fourth child, and 5 child. only mothers of 5 children, I heard there are many mothers of 5 children here, prefer full-time care of their family. A majority of them prefer full-time care of their family. Okay, so look where the part-time point in this chart is. This is, I remind you, the preference. Now we are going to look at the reality of their time use. You could see in the previous slide that there was no big difference following the number of children, except when there were 5 children. You will see here that in reality, the number of children makes a big difference in the time use of mother. 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, 5 children. In the time use of mothers, survey responses show that many more mothers are working full-time and fewer mothers are working part-time than they would like to. Look at the part-time point there and remember where it was on the chart before. The actual percentage of full-time home carers is slightly higher also than the expressed preferences. So the gap between actual and preferred time use may indicate that suitable part-time work is hard to find and that mothers will accept full-time employment or full-time family care more than they would actually prefer to. And this is an important point because studies have shown that the gap between preferred and actual employment of young mothers is a strong statistic predictor for depression. And you will see something about young mothers later. Now, we were asking them a question about their satisfaction in their time use. You will see an interesting finding is that the more children they have, the more satisfied mothers are with their time use. Why do mothers of 3 children and more assume better the time use choice? They seem more satisfied when they have more children. Is it because they acknowledge that they cannot do it all and they make a decision about their priorities? When we cross-tabulated our graphs, we learned that mothers employed full-time are less satisfied than those working part-time. And when they were answering about how not at all satisfied, we were asking them why. And here we had many quotes there too, and I will cite you one quote about a mother who works full-time. I lead 2 work days in a single day. My labor outside the home at my employer's and my work to take care of my children when I return home. There are meals to prepare, supervision of children's homework and housework without counting the errands. I would love to have more time to concentrate only on my children, without having to tell them constantly, you will tell me later, we need to hurry now. I have the impression to be running constantly and to lack time for everything. I am burning out. We have many like this. Mothers on maternity leave and stay-at-home mothers are likely to be more satisfied, followed closely by self-employed mothers. Mothers who are married or in a partner relationship are more likely to be satisfied than divorced, single or separated mothers. And the most satisfied mothers of all, who are they? The mothers between 56 and 70. Probably the ones who are out of the rush hour of motherhood. Okay, in contrast, within the group of very young mothers, 19 to 25, there is the greatest extremes. We have 40% of them that are very satisfied and almost 10% of them that are very unsatisfied. So we need to analyze that. We were wondering whether the gap between preferred and actual employment situation, they would be working either too much or not enough, that would be a cause. Okay, so these charts show something very important, is that time use preferences are both personal and subject to variations. There are some women, we saw that, who wanted to work no matter what, and some who wanted to take care of their family no matter what. There was a majority who wanted to do both. But we could see that the needs of the children were among the mother's foremost priorities, with the charts, with the age of the children and the number of the children. Survey responses also show that mothers preferred different employment arrangements and at different times in their lives. And all mothers do not want the same thing at the same time in their lives. This is an interesting finding. It's that the opposition between the homemaker, the mother at home, and the working woman no longer exists. It is the same person, the same mother, who at some time in her life wants to work more, and at some other time wants to devote more time to her family. There are seasons in a mother's life. Also, not everybody wants the same thing. Choices varied and are highly depending on personal issues. Therefore, we urge policymakers to accompany the choices of mothers rather than making the choice for them. I will talk about that more later. Just a word about the general well-being of mothers to show... Where am I there? Here. To show you that the time issue is important for their general well-being as well. About their relationship inside the family, we asked them about the important features. No abuse at home was the first one, no violence, no abuse at home. Then the second one was spend enough time with the family. Then it was love, respect, tolerance, work-family-life balance, which is again a time issue. Then about the children, harmonious and stable family relations, sufficient time spent with them, and set and maintain limits. And then about the partner, respect, love, tolerance, share of same values, agreement on how to rear our children. So it's interesting, we won't discuss all these because it's not the point, but I wanted to show you that because of that time issue coming over and over again in many of the questions we asked the mothers. I remind you that MMM's mission is to make the voices of mother heard. Rarely are mothers asked for their opinion on policies that influence their lives so much and the life of their family. There are too often a silent majority. So at the end of the survey, all respondents were given the opportunity to write a personal message to policymakers. We had nearly 9,000 messages, and many of them written with evident emotion and considerable wisdom. 3 themes came back over and over again in these messages in all languages: recognition, choice, time. So there is something that's really shared among mothers all over Europe. Recognition for the important role of parents. When you add the second and the third point, you have 42% of mothers who ask for recognition. Recognition, support and recognition of stay-at-home parents' role, whether it's all the time or for part of their career, and recognition for families and parents' role. One quote: "Give home and care work, raising the next generation, greater value. To develop secure, independent, responsible and empathic adults is not possible until the attachment between children and parents has grown strong. Children cannot and should not raise each other, as often happens in daycare, because often there are too few adults." This is a quote coming from Sweden. Another quote: "Realize the importance of mother's role for the well-being of society in general. It is through the mothers that start in the home, the value of peace, respect for others, the giving of self for others, and all that goes into living peacefully with one another." One mother said to the policymakers, "Don't saw off the branch on which you are sitting."